Good morning, folks, and happy Thanksgiving. Today's video is going to be about this new 6.8 Western. The rifle you're looking at is a Winchester XPR, the Stealth. This one actually has a camo stock on it instead of the black, and it's the suppressor ready, and it's already got a quick attachment suppressor. I got this rifle on a trade, but the retail is like $650, somewhere in there, and an Athlon Argos scope, and that scope is a 4-20 by 50. And the ammo that I've been shooting out of this is, you can see there on the table, it's Winchester Copper Impact, 162 grain Copper Extreme Point. It's a lead-free bullet. California legal, whatever other states do that. We don't really worry about that here in Missouri. But just for a size comparison, I've got some rounds here on the table. So going from left to right, as a lot of you can probably tell, is a 45-70. That is a 430 grain HSM bear load. Shot really accurate out of my Marlin CB, the Cowboy model 45-70 lever gun. And next to it is the 6.8 Western. The next one is the 30-06. That is a Federal Premium 30-06, and we got 375 Ruger, the Hornady DGS Dangerous Game Solid. So that is a size comparison for you to kind of get a feel for how fat that casing is, and you know, sleeking up, necking down to that .277 bullet. It's a fairly new round, and it doesn't seem to be causing quite the ruckus of the 6.5 Creedmoor did, or the PRCs. Like the new one that just came out is the 7mm PRC. It's supposed to be a pretty good round. I haven't researched a whole lot into it. I'm not a 7mm fan. But the main emphasis of this video is to talk about what this rifle did to a buck that I killed during our rifle season last week, and the effects it had on it, what I experienced with this rifle, and going forward with a one and done type of rifle for any and everything that you can hunt in the lower 48 and the game that it'll work on in Alaska. At about 150 yards marked out on onX, I dropped a 9-point buck pretty much in its tracks. It jumped up, and then upon its hooves touching the ground, it did a death flip, and there he lay. It was a clean exit. The inner and exit wound was about the same diameter, but the insides was completely obliterated. The velocity off of this round and the energy, it didn't stand a chance. So terminal ballistics on the deer, for the thinner skin game and stuff like that, I was really impressed, and the fact that it didn't go anywhere speaks volumes to me, because of the sheer power and force that this thing hits animals with. I did shoot 2 does with a Sierra Game Changers, the 165 grain. Sierra's the Bullet Smiths. That ammo shoots really good out of my .6. But they would run about 20 to 30 yards before blood was even touching the ground. So I'm assuming that's owed to the velocity of the bullet and just the quickness that it passed through the body of the deer. It didn't quite knock them off their feet, but they don't know what they was hit with, and they were damn sure dead. But the impact of this Copper Impact pretty much barrel rolled that buck. And that's what I'm going after: clean, quick, efficient kills, and not destroying meat. And that's another reason why I like this 6.8 Western, is the front shoulder meat was still harvestable upon butchering his carcass. We were able to salvage probably 80% of both front shoulders instead of obliterating it, like other cartridges will do. So as far as a one and done gun, the 6.8, in my opinion, is I'm really leaning toward it. It kind of sucks because only Browning and Winchester are loading it right now. I really wish I could get it in a Bergara Divide or even in the wilderness terrain. Seekins is making 6.8s, Oregon Mountain Rifle, the OMR, and there's a few others out there. I really like the design of the Seekins. I like the drop in the stock for clearing bolt over your firing hand. That's really nice. Like this one here, I'm left-handed. I normally shoot a right-handed bolt because that's something that I was taught in a specific shooting school, that you don't have to remove your firing control to manipulate a bolt. Everything stays in place. You just rotate your thumb out of the way, rack your bolt, and you're back in the game. But with the Seekins and some of the others, Winchester's got their long range SPR or something like that, and Browning, they've got their Macmillan tactical stocks, and in some of their speed bolts, X bolts, and Hell's Canyon models, where the firing, your pistol grip on your stock, it does drop down out of the way of your bolt for rapid bolt manipulation, and that's really good if you have to pay the insurance on something that turns and charges you like a bear, or something like that, or fast target interdiction, multiple target interdiction. But it's just something that I'm looking for in a gun, to be a one and done type of deal. But this stock is very comfortable. I like the rifle. I haven't grouped it yet. I've been mostly working on a cold bore 0. And right now at 100 yards, I've got it set at about 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches high. And it's hitting dead on. Point of aim was point of impact on that buck. Even through the tall grass, I knew where his shoulder was going to be and touched it off. The trigger on this doesn't have any creep. If you look it up on their website, you can read all about the MOA trigger system. The 3-lug bolt is a very, very low rising bolt handle upon bolt manipulation. So it's, you got plenty of clearance from your hand to your scope. Unlike my .6 and other bolt guns I've shot in the past, your bolt creeps up there pretty close to your scope, and you end up either having to change your grip on your bolt, or altering your grip a little bit, or keeping your thumb on the bottom side of the bolt to throw it up and rack it to the rear, and then repositioning your hand and slamming it back forward. But on this one, you don't got to worry about that. You grab a hold of the bolt, however's comfortable for you, shooter preference, back and forth, and you're back in the game. So that's really nice. I like that bolt design. I got the same one on a CVA Cascade 350 Legend for my kids' rifles. And it's just a super comfortable bolt to operate. You're probably not going to win any PRS with this rifle here, being that it's a 16.5 inch barrel. But there's going to be more videos coming out. I'm going to do a grouping video to 100 with the copper impact. I'm going to do a grouping at 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 out of this short 16.5 inch barrel, just to see what it's going to be like. And if I can get a good group out to, I'd say at least 400, if I can keep it within 5-6 inches at 400 yards, this rifle will go to Idaho on the black bear hunt this next spring, and I'll try to video as much of that experience as I can. But in the meantime, now that deer season is out of the way, we're going to work on some grouping exercises with this rifle, a cold bore shot versus a hot bore shot. Just like in a hunting scenario where your first round is going to be out of a cold bore. And if you have to pay the insurance, as Capstick would say, your next round is going to be coming out of a fairly warm barrel, but it's not going to be like it's had round after round through it. That's the kind of grouping that I'm looking at. There's a lot of good calibers out there, but just the sheer energy, the velocity, and everything out. Once you get about 500 yards out, this thing is starting to leave behind the .6, the 308, even the 300 Win Mag. It's roughly 200 feet per second faster. It's carrying a little bit more than 200 pounds, maybe plus or minus 200 pounds of energy, all at, starting at about 500 yards. At about 600 yards, that's when a lot of your external or exterior ballistics start coming into play, like your your temperature drop, your terrain elevation gain or drop, 20 degrees plus or minus Fahrenheit plus 2,000 feet gain or drop in elevation is where your MOA will really start to play a bigger factor into your shooting. So this rifle isn't really a 1,000-yard rifle. I would like it to be, and maybe it could be with the right practice, the right ammo, and trigger squeeze. But who knows? But we're going to group it out to 600 and see how it does up to that tipping point, if you will, and go from there. So, but there's not a whole lot of information out there about the 6.8. That's why I wanted to share what it did to that buck at 150 yards. It's still moving along pretty quick. So the ballistics on the back of the box, somewhere in there, so 2711 to 2552 on the velocity. So it's probably around 2660 or somewhere in there. Was about the speed that it was traveling when it hit him. Try to get this a little bit more stable for you. But of course, trajectory, inch 1.6 inches with a 200-yard zero high. So it was hitting where I have a cold bore zero right now. It was point of aim, point of impact. So going to Idaho and doing these grouping exercises out to 600, I'm going to be using a cold bore zero at 200 yards once I get the time to get out to the property to do that. And the energy running between 2642 to 2342, probably safe to say 2542 or 2482, somewhere in there. So it's still packing quite a bit of punch. But as far as my entire background of shooting, and between the military and the long range experience I got from that, my one and done rifle, I'm really looking into this 6.8. It wasn't even on my radar until probably a month ago. I knew it was out, just didn't research it. I was going to go with a 30-06. I've tossed around the idea of 300 Win Mag. Everybody always asks what the perfect gun for this or that is. The perfect gun is what you can shoot consistently, accurately. As long as you put that round where it needs to be, if you select the right bullet, it's going to do its job. But everybody has their own opinions on certain calibers and stuff. And for thin skin game all the way up to moose, like I said, up in Alaska, just off of what I've seen this do to that buck, I wouldn't think twice about putting it into a grizzly, because I know my accuracy capabilities, and if I had to, I could put a second one into him, or maybe even a third if it needed it. But for everything else below it, moose, elk, caribou, mountain goat, deer, I don't really hog hunt just because it got boring after a while. To me, this is a stout enough round. It's definitely packing a punch, and it is moving. So I really enjoy it. I hope somebody got something out of this video. Maybe definitely probably get some out of the later videos of the grouping exercises. And if you have any questions or comments or experiences of yourself on the 6.8 Western, or just a one and done type of rifle in general that you've had good luck with, feel free to comment below. Like and follow my page, and we'll kind of go through this together. Thank you.